Okay, guys, we're live. I'm just going to give it a second just to connect to Facebook. Always takes a minute. I hope you're all having a great day so far. Okay, we're good on Facebook. Let me just go live here on the group and next on Instagram, and we'll be all set. I think we're live everywhere. Okay, I'm just going to give it a second. We're good on Instagram, we're good on Facebook, and LinkedIn and YouTube. So, guys, I hope you're all having a great week so far. I can't believe we're already November 4th. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Like this year is just flying by. Today, I'm going to be talking about when eating less backfires and really the science behind, fueling hormones, fat loss, especially if you're going through midlife transition, the midlife changes. So if you're joining in on Instagram or on any of the other platforms, and you're somebody who has been, very consistent eating, whole foods, eating clean, pushing yourself, but you're still feeling tired or stuck or frustrated, this talk is going to be for you. Okay. This training is going to be for you because what I'm about to share is one of the biggest reasons why so many women struggle to see results, especially if you're going through perimenopause and menopause, well, postmenopause. If you're watching and you're able to see me, just like comment below. So if you're watching on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, just comment that you're able to see me. I want to make sure it's live everywhere. And what we're going to be talking about today, so a big thing we're going to be focusing on is called low energy availability. So we're just going to use acronyms here, just LEA. And this is something that's like way more common than you think. So I want to make something extremely clear before diving into this topic. This talk isn't going to be about eating more, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there where they're just like, oh, you just need to eat more and then you'll lose fat. Like the key is to eat more. If your goal is fat loss, that still requires a calorie deficit, okay? I'm not going against the law of thermodynamics. You do need to be in a calorie deficit if your goal is fat loss. But there's a fine line. If your goal is body recomposition, you want to gain muscle, you want to lose fat, there's a fine line between being in a healthy strategic deficit and versus living in a chronic state of underfueling. Okay, so that's really like that's the biggest difference I want you to take away from this talk today. The first one, when you're doing, a calorie deficit in a strategic way, that's going to allow your body to adapt. That's going to allow your body to get leaner in a healthy, sustainable way. The second one, if you are living in a chronic state of underfueling, that second type of deficit signals danger. Okay. And that's when hormones, metabolism, your mood start crashing. Okay. So we don't want that, which is the point of today's talk. And if you're new here, if you're new on my Instagram page or wherever you're watching from, I'm Alexis. I'm a biologist turned into personal trainer and nutrition coach and the founder of Flexus Fitness. And over the last 10 years, so the last decade, I've helped over 1,000 high performing women going through perimenopause, and postmenopause just feel strong, more energized, and finally gain control of the changes that they're experiencing, just feeling more empowered about what's going on and just feeling more in control of their bodies again. So my approach is really all about helping you understand, giving you the tools, the knowledge, the information to understand what to look for and how to work with your individual biology, not against it, so that every bite that you eat, every workout that you do actually moves the needle forward. So you're getting more out of what you're doing. So if that's the kind of support that you enjoy, that you're looking for, you're in the right spot. I have a bunch of other content like this coming your way. So we're going to get right into it. So if you have a pen and paper next to you or you're typing notes, I suggest you keep it nearby because we're going to get into all the nitty-gritty stuff today. So the first thing is what I like to call, so there's 3 key points that we're going to be covering today. And the first thing, I always like to start off with understanding what's happening, okay? Because that gives you more purpose as to like what's going on, understand the why behind what's happening. So understand the physiology behind it. So there's a lot of things, like there's what a lot of women don't realize or recognize is that you could be eating healthy, quote unquote healthy, but still be under fueling. So low energy availability happens when the energy that you're taking in, the energy that you're consuming through food, doesn't meet the total demands of your body. Meaning your body doesn't have enough energy left after your workouts, after your daily life, to cover everything else that it needs to do, right? Hormone production, digestion, muscle repair, immune function, let alone just breathing, right? Let alone just surviving. So let's say like you're training, let's just say 3 to 5 times a week, okay? And whether like you're strength training or you're doing exercise classes, or maybe you're just you're walking and you work on top of that, you manage a household, you have a family to take care of, all of those things, all those activities burn energy, right? So when there's not enough left after that to support basic functions like, again, hormone production, digestion, recovery, brain function, that's what we look at in terms of low energy availability. So yes, you could be in a calorie deficit and still be eating too little to support your biology. So if that deficit is too deep or too long, and you're actually in a long, like chronic deficit, your body is eventually going to perceive that as a stressor. So it's not going to feel safe. And that's where the whole fat loss equation, and again, I'm generalizing it for fat loss, but when I say fat loss too, like if you're looking again to like lean out, build muscle, lose belly fat, like that's what we're talking about today. So in terms of that, like that fat loss equation isn't just about math, okay? It's about how your body is interpreting that deficit that you're in. So a small strategic calorie deficit is going to signal proper adaptation versus a chronic, very extreme deficit is going to signal stress to your body. So when that happens, stress hormones rise, and they're already higher when you are going through hormonal changes. When you're going through the perimenopausal transition, your stress response, that's one of the first things that changes. So keeping that in mind, stressors are already higher, so you're adding more stress. You could be slowing down your thyroid output. I see somebody from Corpus Christi, Texas. I've been to somebody on Instagram just said they're hello from Corpus Christi. So that's awesome. I visited South Padre Island once, and beautiful, beautiful place. Love Texas. So that when that happens again, cortisol rises, thyroid output slows down, estrogen, progesterone decline even more, and they're already like on a roller coaster. And muscle, the most important thing that we want to keep in mind during this phase is you want to be focusing on things that are going to preserve muscle and build lean muscle mass. So muscle repair and recovery get deprioritized. So the result is you feel more tired, you feel flat, you feel stuck, even though you feel like you're checking off all the boxes and you're eating clean, you're eating healthy, doing everything right. This shows up in all the ways, right? So here are the signs. And again, like I want to give you the tools to like just recognize this, what you're experiencing. So the signs that we look for in clients that we work with, that tell us, okay, their bodies are signaling, underfueled, whether they're coming in that way or even throughout the process, if we're seeing, okay, like just based on what else is going on in your life, how your body's adapting to everything else, these are things that we're looking for and making sure that we're adjusting along the way. So the first thing is just like constant fatigue, right? Or even that wired but tired feeling. That could be a sign that you're not getting enough fuel or not getting enough carbs, feeling cooler more often, right? So that, again, during perimenopause, there's already that issue with body temperature regulation, but just feeling, cooler, and the brain fog, difficulty concentrating, slower recovery after workout. So just feeling like, like you're not recovering as well as you used to, which again, that is something that changes with the just perimenopausal transition. So these are all things we want to really prioritize. Again, that stress response, that recovery aspect, poor sleep or waking up between that classic like 2 to 4 a.m., that also ties back to low energy availability or how you're eating, the signals your body's getting throughout the day, bloating, constipation, just irregular digestion, weight loss plateau, just like fat loss plateau or even fat gain, and just loss of muscle. Despite trying, like you're putting in the work, again, you feel like you're eating sufficient protein, you're doing all the things, you're putting in the strength training, but your body, it just seems like your muscle is disappearing. So these are not signs of, like, despite what anybody tells you, these are not signs of just getting older. Yes, things do change. Our biology changes as we mature, as women, as we get older, but they're signs that your body doesn't have the resources, the raw materials to do its job properly. So what's tricky about this is, again, all these things I just named look like perimenopausal symptoms, right? They look like hormonal shifts that are happening. So if you're, again, like, this is where it gets a bit tricky for someone, because if somebody's like active, they're disciplined, and they're still feeling depleted, they might think, oh, it's just perimenopause, when in reality, it's actually more of a fueling issue more than just the hormonal aspect. So that's one of the most common reasons, and again, like, something that I think a lot of women have been taught from a young age is, just because of, again, generations, like the society, we grew up in until now. I would say in the last few years, things are changing, but like, it was always that thinner is better, right? And shrinking. And we've learned to, eat less, push harder, rely on willpower. So when midlife hits and then things start to change, maybe you're experiencing more belly fat, more fatigue, you're feeling like nothing you're doing is budging, like it's just nothing is budging despite what you're doing, what you're trying. It's natural to want to fall back into those old patterns of like, okay, I'm just going to double down. I'm just going to work harder. But your physiology has changed. So your hormones, estrogen, progesterone, your thyroid hormones, stress, cortisol, all these things are all part of the system that manages how you use, how you store, and how you burn energy. So when these hormones start to fluctuate, and like estrogen, for example, it affects how your body is responding and metabolizing carbs, how it's using sugars. It affects your ability to recover. It affects even how much, carbs your body can store in your muscles. So that's where, whenever I speak to women, and they're like, I'm doing all these things, I have all these aspects, and I've tried things in the past that haven't worked. And it's because it's looking at the overall picture now. It's looking at the overall strategy. It's when you eat less, and when you just focus on eating less and training more, eating cleaner and training more, it doesn't automatically translate to the changes that you're striving for. It could actually mean that you're putting your body in a less metabolic, having your body in a state where it's less flexible. So your metabolic flexibility. So your body eventually adapts to just conserve. So that's not, again, it's not your body failing you. It's just that your physiology has changed, and there's just different aspects, the recovery, the training, your overall fuel. That's where the overall strategy has to match in order to feel better. So that's the first thing, just understanding the physiology, what's happening, the signs to look for. Now, moving on to point number 2, how do you find that sweet spot? So how do you fuel, right, for fat loss without underfueling, without depriving, without making sure that your body's getting the raw materials that it needs? So now that you understand what's happening, what this is, why it can make it harder for your body to respond, let's talk about how you could go about fixing it. So this, again, it's not just about eating more. Okay, I'm not here to tell you just need to eat more, because again, I don't even know what that looks like for you. A lot of women, on another side, a lot of women come to me and they say, like, I'm in a deficit, I'm eating super clean, and then when they tell us their overall day, like, yes, they're having small meals, but then eventually, like, it's, again, there's lack of consistency, right? So I don't know your situation. I'm not just saying just eat more, but what this means is women what you need in this stage isn't just more food, it's better energy balance. So that means knowing when your body needs fuel versus when it needs more recovery. That means making sure that you're matching your intake to your activity output. So that also may look a little different every day, because our bodies aren't computers, right? Where our bodies are very dynamic. Our schedules are very dynamic. It might look a little different every day. Ensuring that your body feels safe enough to respond to a deficit when you do apply one. So that's a big thing that a lot of, programs or coaches out there is they'll just like throw you, hit 1,200 calories or hit this many macros, and they just throw you into a deficit without ensuring that your biology is in a state where it feels safe to respond. So when your metabolism feels supported, you could successfully lose fat on a moderate deficit and keep it off. And that's going to allow you to do it in a way where you're not tanking your hormones, you're not tanking your energy levels. And that's the difference between, again, a deficit that's productive versus a deficit that could be very destructive on the body. So here's what that looks like. So first off, starting your day off with fuel. I know this is a very controversial topic, especially nowadays with intermittent fasting, fasting in general, long-term fasting. Again, case by case scenario. I'm not anti-fasting, but we have to look at the overall context. Okay. So most women, and again, if you're doing intermittent fasting, most women, what they do is they undereat early and then they overeat later. So if you are somebody that is doing fasting and you feel good with it, cool. Your body's in a state where it can respond. Awesome. If you're seeing results with it, amazing. Keep going. What I always tell them is like 12 to 14 hours is the sweet spot to get the benefits without overstressing your body. But let's say you are doing intermittent fasting, flip that order. So let's say get 2/3 of your calories in the first 2/3 of your day. And the reason why I'm saying that is that when like your stress response is higher, so cortisol and your body is more sensitive to insulin, that's where they're highest earlier on in the day. So that way you're front loading your day with more fuel, and then you're just moving the fasting window again. If you've like, I'm not somebody who pushes intermittent fasting, so I don't want you to get mixed messages here. But if you're doing that, I would say move it earlier on to your day, front load your day with protein, fiber, carbs. It's not about skipping breakfast. That's something I hear from a lot of women is like, oh, I'm intermittent fasting, I'm skipping breakfast. You should never feel like you have to earn breakfast, okay? Breakfast actually helps set up your blood sugar for the rest of the day, your cortisol response for the rest of the day, your appetite. So this one change, just front loading your day, just shifting it, flipping it, that alone can improve energy, improve your sleep, because it affects, again, signals that you're getting throughout your day, improve cravings. So that's the first thing is, making sure that you're starting your day off with some fuel. The second thing is making sure that you're fueling your training and recovery. So this is something where we really focus on with a lot of women, because a lot of women that come to us is, again, they're doing all the things and they have a really good foundation, but it's about filling in the gaps, right? And that's where that overall strategy really matters. So even small snacks before and after your workouts, what you're eating makes a huge difference. Your muscles, your hormones, your nervous system, they all rely on energy to adapt. And it does become more difficult throughout perimenopause to build muscle and preserve it. So we need to be more mindful, more intentional of your overall nutrition strategy, your recovery and training. So before workouts, aiming for like 15 to 30 grams of carbs, 10 to 15 grams of protein. And when I say this, like if you're going for a walk, that's okay. But like if you're doing like a strength workout, quality workout, give your body some fuel. After workouts, we're looking at about like 25 to 30 grams of protein, 30 to 50 grams of carbs, depending on like if it's supper, what meal it is, whatever the case. So fueling before and after tells your body, okay, you could adapt, you could repair, you could build. Again, it has those raw materials to do its job. The third thing is eating enough protein across your day. So protein isn't just for muscle. I know there's a lot of talk about protein, especially nowadays, but protein is so much more than that. It regulates blood sugar. It supports your thyroid function. It helps even your liver to be able to detoxify hormones like estrogen. So in general, women should aim for about 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Okay. So again, if you're like 130 pounds, give or take 130 grams of protein, give or take plus or minus 10 grams. That's a good place to start. And that allows you to preserve lean muscle, even if you are in a deficit. It might look different if you're extremely active. Again, depending on your level of activity, that might look a little different, but it's a great start. And if you're not eating, let's say you're eating 80 grams, like you're way below that, start slowly. Okay. You don't just want to like spike it up to 130 grams of protein. Chances are that's going to cause a bit of digestive distress. We don't want that. We don't want any constipation. So you want to build it up slowly, but that's a great place just to 0.8 to 1 gram per body weight. So when it comes to the protein though, it's not just about your overall day. So a lot of people are like, oh, just aim for this much protein. We want to make sure you're getting those consistent signals throughout the day. So aiming for, we always say like, and we don't actually focus on macros, grams and all that. We like to use hand portions with our clients. So like we calculate all of the nutrient needs and then we translate into your specific hand portions. But let's say 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. And that would be like a palm of protein. So not all at dinner. Don't just aim for like 80 grams of protein at dinner at the end of your day. Again, like your body can't store protein. So spreading it out keeps your body in that like muscle preserving mode. It gives your body those signals to consistently repair and rebuild. The fourth thing is you want to bring back, you want to make sure that you're incorporating carbs. Okay, guys. And this is something where so many women I talk to, it's like, yeah, I'm doing low carb, high protein. Your body needs carbs and protein to build muscle. And that's the ultimate goal, right? The more muscle you have, the better it is, not just for your body composition, but again, overall, like just longevity, how your metabolic health. So carbs aren't the enemy. They're actually a tool. And again, they fuel your thyroid. They help with your nervous system. They improve sleep quality. So we want to make sure that it matches your output. So this is where like even on rest days, you don't want to just decrease your carbs. Like let's say you're not training, you want to make sure you're still eating sufficient carbs. If depending on the type of training you're doing too, then maybe you want to bump your carbs up some days. But that's where, when it comes to low carb, you're doing if you are doing seriously like actual low carb, like I'm talking like less than 100 grams of carbs per day, you're doing your body such a disservice. And that's like carbs actually, like especially on rest days, your body uses, again, like that's where the magic happens in terms of rebuilding, in terms of recalibrating your hormones, recovering. So if you want results, you have to fuel the recovery process, and again, you need sufficient carbs and protein. And the last thing is we want to make sure that we're adjusting. Okay, so like if you are, again, in a calorie deficit, because you want to lean out, you want to change your body composition, make it starting off small, being strategic with it and supporting it, right? So again, if you're noticing your sleep, your mood, your energy start to tank, that's a sign that the deficit that you're in is way too aggressive. And when you get the balance right, not too little, not too much, your body is going to feel safe enough to let go. So that's a sweet spot, right? So that's when fat loss happens without the burnout, right? And when you do that, everything else gets easier. Fat loss becomes easier. It becomes steady instead of, stubborn. Your energy, more stable energy, it just stabilizes. Your hormones start communicating, just your body in general starts communicating better. And you finally feel like, again, your body's on your side, your body's on your team, right? So that's the second thing, is like finding that sweet spot. These are just key things to keep in mind. Now, the last pillar is, and this is where it's just going to bring everything that we just talked about together. Okay. So this one's really, really key, is you want to support the system. Okay. So I'm talking about daily habits that are going to keep your hormones, your metabolism, your energy going, everything in sync. So once you're fueling, your nutrition is dialed in. And when I say dialed in, I'm not saying rigid or restricted, just again, having a good strategy to back your system up. These daily habits keep your system running efficiently. So nutrition alone isn't going, like, again, like just eating clean isn't a strategy. Just eating whole foods isn't going to fix dysregulation in your body, right? So these are the things that matter most. So again, if you have a pen and paper with you, you're going to want to write this down. So first off, prioritize your sleep like it's a workout. Okay. So one poor night of sleep, which is very common during perimenopause. Okay. So that's a whole other topic. I've done talks on that too, if you need help with that. But one poor night of sleep can increase what we call insulin resistance by up to 30% the next day, meaning that your body is going to have trouble, again, so it's less insulin sensitive. It's going to have trouble metabolizing sugar. It can even, your appetite changes. So you always want to aim for, like either 7.5 or 9 hours of sleep consistently. And why I say 7.5 or 9 hours is because instead of thinking of hours per night, you want to think in terms of sleep cycles. So each sleep cycle is 90 minutes long. So making sure that you're work backwards. So take your wake up time, go to bed to make sure you're completing, again, 90-minute cycles. So 7.5 or 9 hours, or 6 hours if that's your case too. That way you're not interrupting your sleep cycle. That's when, during sleep, that's when your body is able to, again, repair, grow, you know, help again, just all of your, just reset your body. That's what happens when we sleep, right? So prioritizing sleep, and that's why when somebody comes to us, if their sleep, which is common again during the perimenopause transition, if they're struggling a lot with sleep or disrupted sleep, they're having an easy time going to bed, but then they're waking up throughout the night, that's always the first place that we start, because if that foundation isn't solid, no matter what else we layer on top of it, we're just not going to have a solid foundation, right? So that's the first thing, prioritizing your sleep like it's a workout. The second thing is hydrating, and if needed, electrolytes if needed. I know there's a lot of hype around electrolytes. A lot of people promote them because they get, they have a promo code or whatever the case. When it comes to that, electrolytes could be, again, strategy if you're working out hard, you're even if you're stressed, because it does deplete your electrolytes, and there are certain times where it could help. But in general, and you also need to make sure you're hydrated. It's not just about staying hydrated with water, but you want to make sure you're hydrating your cells. But in general, you want to aim for half of your body weight in ounces. So body weight in pounds. So take how much you weigh in pounds right now, divide that by 2. That's in general a good rule of thumb for how much water you want to intake throughout the day. If you're training a lot, or if you're sweating a lot, if you're in a very hot climate, like that's where you want to make sure that you're drinking more, right? But low hydration is going to create a sluggish metabolism. So it's not just, again, like water is so key, and just for energy, your brain, like it fuels everything, right? So that's the second thing, not forgetting about your hydration. The third thing is, when it comes to workouts, is we want to focus on training for power, so not punishment. Okay, so your goal is in a workout shouldn't be to burn as many calories as possible. It's your goal with your workout, especially if you're going through perimenopause and beyond, you want to train your body to build capacity. Okay, so that's where we want to focus on intentional strength training 2 to 3 times per week. That means showing up with intention, with a plan, right? Not just going through the motions, just doing a workout, but really targeting specific movements and targeting muscles with purpose, right? Moving with a purpose. And we also want to be prioritizing progressive overload. So gradually increasing your resistance, gradually, things like your rep or tempos over time. And just even it's not just about strength. We want to work on power too. So just some power work, like plyometrics, adapting as needed if you have any like joint issues or arthritis or stuff like that. But we want to keep that power on our side and keep that, stay in the playing field, right? Keep that edge on your side. So that's very, very key. So that combination is what keeps, like, the power and strength keeps what we call your fast twitch muscle fibers active. It keeps those active. It keeps your bones strong. It keeps your metabolism more responsive long-term. So when you're training with intention and not just training randomly or doing excessive workouts and like crazy hit workouts, your body is going to adapt properly instead of feeling depleted. Now, the second to the last one, so the fourth one, is managing stress intentionally. So I keep using the word intentionally, and that's one thing is, again, we just need to be more intentional during this time. So chronically high stress, high cortisol, blunts fat loss, because again, your body doesn't feel safe. And it will do that just as much as overeating or undereating, right? So even just, and it's not about doing like crazy meditation or, adding a bunch of stuff to your plate, right? Because that's typically when people think about managing stress, they're like, I just don't have time to manage stress, right? But like, it's literally as simple as even just throughout your day, just taking 60 breaths, wherever you are, even just taking 5 minutes of your day, doing something that downshifts your nervous system, right? So going for a walk, just doing some simple breath work, just journaling at night, or whatever, praying, like whatever works for you, whatever feels good. And the last thing, and this is something that we track every week for the one that we work with, is just biofeedback. So your energy, your sleep, your mood, are those improving or are they getting worse? If they're improving, that's a great sign. Your body is always communicating. So you just need to listen to it. And that's always rule number 0 at Flexus Fitness, is listen to your body. So you just need to be aware of the data to look for it, listen to it, and not just not just focus on the scale, because that definitely doesn't tell the whole story, especially as your body's adapting. So just tuning into that biofeedback. How are your sleep, your energy, your digestion, your mood? How are your focus? How are those things improving? So ladies, that wraps it up. If you've been feeling again stuck or tired or frustrated, don't just jump to like, I need to be more disciplined, I need to eat less, I need to eat cleaner. Those aren't strategies, those aren't the next move, right? Instead, ask yourself, am I fueling my biology enough to respond properly? And learning when to push, learning when to pull back, learning how to align your food, your training, your recovery with how your body is actually working now. And if you have been, eating less, training more, doing all the things and your body's just not cooperating, it's not about pushing harder at this point. It's about fueling smarter. And that's where like your body is never as much as it may feel like it sometimes. And I've had a history of hormone problems. Like I had a bad concussion. Like I went through a whole spiel of things with my hormones. I know how it could feel like almost like your body's fighting you when you have these like symptoms and just like these things that feel off. But it's never, your body's not trying to fight you on purpose. It's actually trying to work very hard to protect you. And once it gets the right signals, once it feels safe, it will start to finally work for you again. So fuel smart, train with intention. And remember, the goal is never restriction. It's regulation. That's what our bodies need, is just regulation. And if you're at the point where you're ready to dial this in for yourself and finally, find that sweet spot where your body is, fueled, balanced, and responsive again, comment below LEA. So again, the acronym for low energy availability, LEA. We could chat more about what's going on in your body right now, what might be missing from your current approach, and I'll help you figure out, again, like the next best step to help you feel better, feel stronger, and just more in control again. So again, your body is not fighting you. You're not broken. It's just waiting for you to finally give it the right inputs. So that wraps up my talk for today. Thank you so much for all of you that joined in. And again, if you want to chat more, just comment LEA and I'll reach out to you. I'm going to post this training on Instagram as well.